Why is meditation important?
It is a very important question. For most people, meditation is perceived as some kind of a way to relax. Sometimes people consider meditation to be a form of spiritual practice, a kind of lifestyle choice. Many times people comment on the fact that for them to meditate helps to calm down the mind, deal with stress. And this is where the problem is, because meditation as a practice is not something that has been invented lately. It's not a modern invention. Actually, meditation is a spiritual practice which comes from very solid spiritual teachings and spiritual doctrines originating in Asia, especially in India, where we find, especially in the yogic tradition of India, in the yoga tradition, the original yoga tradition, we find that meditation is one of the steps of the yoga practice. For example, a very famous yogi 2,500 years ago called Patanjali wrote a text which is one of the fundamental texts of yoga today, until today, is called the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, where he describes the 8 stages of yoga. He simply systemized yoga into 8 stages. And there he mentions that we have to go through certain steps in the yogic ladder, so to speak, as we grow spiritually and we practice different aspects of the yoga system. And then stage number 8, the last one, which he calls samadhi, is perhaps equivalent, at least to a certain degree, to what most people loosely refer to today as enlightenment or nirvana. And the interesting thing is that stage number 7, the one just before this enlightenment samadhi state, is actually meditation. He calls it dhyana, which in Sanskrit means meditation. And therefore that already tells us that meditation is not just some, type of practice which is something to improvise, to just sit and feel good or do whatever you want to do. You can if you want, but from a spiritual standpoint, if it is authentic teaching that we look at, the yoga tradition tells us that meditation is an actual methodology. It's an actual practice which has a meaning and a purpose. It's not a chaotic thing. It's not just something to feel good. It's not some modern way of relaxing and avoiding stress. Actually, meditation is a step in the yogic ladder of spiritual development, and not just any step, the last but one. We're talking about the closest one to enlightenment. So, having said that, we understand that meditation in yoga is a very, very clear teaching. It explains exactly what you're supposed to do, how you should follow those teachings, and that if you go properly through it, it can take you even to a higher state of consciousness, enlightenment, or however you want to call it. But in other words, it is an essential milestone in the path to reaching human perfection, human evolution, a mental expansion, if you wish. So that's why meditation is extremely important to practice if you do it properly, if you do the right kind of practice. Because I talk to a lot of people that use, and today it's a very common thing, that people use many concepts, especially concepts coming from the East, in a very loose way. They say, oh, I like to meditate, I do my yoga, I like to focus on my chakras, I do this, I do that. And they just speak on it very loosely. But we have to remember that all these terms, including, of course, the concept of meditation, are part of a very complete system which is meant to be taken almost like engineering, like you follow step by step, and by doing that, the results are guaranteed. And that's why meditation has to be done daily if it is done correctly for the purpose of taking you forwards in your evolution. And that's what I do when I teach people meditation, not just as a lifestyle choice, but as part of their sadhana. Sadhana in Sanskrit simply means your spiritual practice or commitment, and in order to follow that practice, it's like a recipe. If you do it properly, the results are guaranteed. And that's why meditation must be done daily, because that type of a practice will slowly create a change in the mind, until it brings a certain level, which is, as Patanjali calls it, samadhi, a state of enlightenment.